years, I've been conducting a series of experiments. And the topic of these experiments have been me. And specifically, what food best serves my body and contributes to optimal wellness for myself. As I've gone through this journey, I've shared with friends along the way, and one of my friends, Danny in particular, has taken great interest in this because she's always fascinated to know what I'm currently eating and not eating. We were talking about it one day, and she just slightly looked at me and she goes, "You know what?" She's like, "You're really good at isolating your variables and testing them." And I thought, that's a weird compliment. But I took a step back and I thought, well, she's right. That's the exact approach that I've taken with this experimenting. And it made me think of, when was the last time I heard the term isolate your variables? High school elementary science class. And the scientific method. When I started writing this speech, I did not think I was going to be talking about the scientific method. But the more I thought about it, it's actually a really approachable way of taking something that you have made an observation about, or you have questions about, and breaking it down into really actionable steps. So I thought we'd talk about the scientific method today. There's an example of the flow in front of you, where you can share. The scientific method starts with an observation. 5 years ago, the observation that I made was after I would eat, I felt sick. I felt sick to my stomach and overall just kind of, And after speaking to some people, I realized, well, this had become normal for me. It was not normal for everyone else. So then I moved quickly into asking questions. Well, why am I feeling sick after I eat? Is it food? Is it a particular kind of food? Is it the time of day? Is it something environmental? I had all of these questions, and I didn't know what to do with all of these questions. Well, then I moved into making what are called hypotheses, which are predictions about the observation and conclusions to experiments. They're if-then statements. I had many hypotheses that I've tested over the last 5 years, one that I'm continuing to test today. But the one I wanted to share with you was the hypothesis, if I eat dairy, then I get a migraine. Okay, that's great, but how do I test that? The method that I have found to be most effective in experimenting around what foods can best serve you is the program called the Whole30. The Whole30, which you've undoubtedly heard about because it's very popular, is not a weight loss program. It's actually voted one of the worst weight loss programs out there because it's not a weight loss program. The purpose of the Whole30 is to help you understand your relationship with food. And by relationship, I mean how do you respond to food physically, but how do you respond to it mentally, emotionally, socially? How does it impact you spiritually? It's about getting your body back to a state of home base, ground zero, so that then you can bring food into your body and make observations about how it's impacting you. I did my 30 days. It was like a prison sentence. And at the end of it, I decided to test dairy. Well, dairy, my favorite form of dairy is chocolate. So I had some chocolate. I got a little bit of a headache, but nothing I probably would have noticed had I not been super aware of my body. And it could have been the sugar. So I was like, well, maybe I should have picked something different. So waited a couple days, got the dairy out of my system, was gonna retest it. In the meantime, I had lunch with a friend, and I got back to work that afternoon, and my productivity was gone. I had this headache behind my eyes that was so debilitating, I thought I was just gonna have to go home. I became very irritable, my face broke out, I was bloated for 2 days, and because I've been going through the experiments, I knew it had to be something with food, but I had been very careful about my diet. So I called the place where I had lunch and said, let's walk through this again, because which I had done before I'd eaten. Come to find out there was a trace amount of Parmesan cheese in the dish that I ate. And so I had the conclusion that I was anticipating without even knowing that I'd had the dairy. So I had to move to the final step of the scientific method where I either had to accept my hypothesis or reject it. Well, at this point, rejecting it would have been denial. And that's a whole other topic. So I accepted this hypothesis. When I have dairy, I get a migraine, amongst other symptoms. So why do you care? This is my personal journey. Why does this matter to you? In front of you, you'll see a list of observations and victories people have experienced after doing the same program that I did with the Whole30. It's front and back. My guess is as you look at this list, there's going to be something that jumps out at you. And you're going to say, I want that. I want that to be true of my life. Or I'd like more of that. How do I get that? Every item on that list, I believe, starts with food. If we think about what food is, it's fuel for our body. So if I think about my car, and I know my car needs gas to run, but what's the other thing my car needs to run? Oil. And we know from Tommy Boy it needs the right oil. I happen to think coconut oil is a fantastic source of oil. But if I put it in my car, it's not going to operate at peak performance, or probably at all. The same is true for the food that we put into our body. What is good fuel for me, what is good oil for me, is not the same for you. We all have unique bodies. And it's important to understand what fuel is going to work best for me, because I believe it all starts with food, but I believe wellness all starts in your gut. Gut health is so incredibly important, and it's so, if you study it, it is linked to so many things. All of those results on there are linked back to good gut health. So the challenge for you, if you see something on that list, and you're saying, I want that, the challenge is to go through and do your own experimenting. Apply the scientific method to your own life. I heavily encourage the Whole30 program. There's a group of us doing it together in April. Some people in this room are participating in that. I love coaching people through this program because I've gotten such good results from it. And I love seeing the aha at the end. I recommend heavily, if you do a Whole30, do it with a group. It's not easy, but fighting lifelong diseases is harder than this program. If you remember one thing from my talk today, please remember this. Think of food as your own personal fuel. It has the power to heal you, but it also has the power to harm you. So pay attention and trust your gut. Thank you.